It's so good to see so many people here, some of you new faces. So welcome to World of Wildlife. My name is Dr. Sarah Pye, and I'm your host today. I host this gathering every month together with Dr. Wong Soo Tee, who in my tiles is in that direction. It's a bit of a Brady Bunch look here, and he's right there waving at you. Dr. Wong Soo Tee is based in Borneo, and we host this together because we started this basically in COVID, or just before COVID, I believe, with the idea of connecting people who are wildlife lovers around the world who are feeling that lack of connection. I write books about wildlife, and all the books I've written so far are about this man. So it's lovely that we can actually do this together. I'm going to share my screen, and the way this gathering each works every single month is I'll give you a bit of an update on what I've been doing for the last month. Then I'll pass over to Wong, and he'll give us a bit of an update on what's going on in Borneo, specifically with the Bornean sun bears that he has devoted his life to protecting. And then we'll pass over to our guest speaker. Our guest speakers this time, we have David and Linda, who are that way in my tile. And we'll hear all about an Australian marsupial called koalas. For those of you who don't live in Australia, they're a bit unique for you. For us, they're unique too, especially since they're listed as endangered in some parts of this country. So we'll be hearing all about those today. Let me start with my update. So I'm going to share my screen. These are the books that I write for those of you who are new to World of Wildlife. The first book there, the black one, is Saving Sun Bears, which is the biography of Dr. Wong Soo Tee, the person next to me. It took me 4 years to write this book, but it was the accumulation of a few years of work. So I first met Wong in 2012. In Borneo, and I was captivated by his charisma and his commitment to saving sun bears from extinction. That led me to do all sorts of projects with Wong through the University of the Sunshine Coast where I work, but also independently as well. So with some students, we created an adoption program for sun bears, which helps raise money. But in 2016, I asked Wong if I could write his story. That was the result, and it also came with a doctorate. So I did a Doctor of Creative Arts degree, so a thesis and the black book there. But once we'd finished that, Wong and I chatted a bit more and realized that the importance of connecting the next generation with conservation and with all his amazing stories about different species in the jungles of Borneo. So that has resulted in those 6 children's books that you see there, which are getting the word out for Wong, helping him raise awareness about his species and also about the Bornean jungle in general. What I do now is I go into schools and I do workshops around those books. So each book has experiments in them, as well as informational facts about the species and a non-fiction story about Wong. So they'll do workshops around those. Oh, hang on. And with those workshops, I've done a few this month, but I'll tell you a little bit about that first. We do have a celebration. We have a celebration for the 99th birthday of this man who Wong has spent time with. David Attenborough is, when I was interviewing people for Wong's book, I interviewed about 45 people. And one of the questions I asked most of them was, what got you into conservation and wildlife? And almost every single one of them said it was this man. So we owe a lot in the conservation of our planet to David Attenborough, and I'd like to acknowledge that he's 99 this year. Incredible man, and I think we all probably agree with that. So happy birthday, Sir David. Some of the things I've been doing this month. One is launched a new teacher resource that goes along with the Wildlife Wong and the Sun Bear book. This teacher resource includes 26 pages of classroom resources that teachers can use to go along with that book and integrate this book into their classroom. It's available on my website in my shop, and you can just see that link there if anyone is interested in having a look or sharing that link with teachers you know, because we really want to spread the word of conservation, and that's one way to do it. Other things I've been doing, I was presenting at the Planting Festival at the Woodford Folk Festival site in Queensland on last last Sunday. I did a talk called Trees for Life, and we integrated stories about trees to the importance of trees. It went really well, and I got a lot of good connections there, which will hopefully improve the reach of some of our messages as well. What else? Worrell View State School, tiny little state school next to Ipswich in Queensland. It has 26 students in it. I spent a day at Worrell Street State School last week engaging the kids in conservation through workshops. It was absolute delight. Enjoyed that a great deal. And I've done a book signing at Annie's Bookshop in Perigian this week, engaging some young people with the books through my friend Pongo, my puppet. If anyone hasn't met Pongo yet, hopefully you'll get to sometime in the future. There's one more thing that I want to talk to you about with my update before I pass on, and that is what's coming up next. So I did touch a little bit on Curious Kai Asks Why, which is my next book. It will be launched in the next few months, and you can see an incredibly beautiful sketch there that's created by Sandra Severini, who is here today. So Sandra's going to share some more about her process in another month and talk to you about how she illustrates children's books. But I wanted to just give you a little bit of sneak peek into one of her incredible sketches that will be in this book. So yeah, let's give Sandra a huge round of applause for some incredible sketching. She's a well-known illustrator for children's books and an award-winning one as well. So I'm very, very grateful that she's agreed to do this project. Well, then the next part of the proceedings is to pass on to my friend, someone I admire very greatly, is Dr. Wong Suu, who's going to give us an update on what's happening in Borneo. Now, Wong, I do have a couple of slides. Do you want me to put them up, or do you want?
Sure. Yeah, please do.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, hi everybody. Some familiar faces and some not so familiar faces. Good to see you all. I am at my conservation center now today. Took a 6 o'clock flight from Kota Kinabalu to back here to Sanakan. Okay, about this. Okay, good. So a little update about what's going on for the last month or so. And since Sarah put out these slides, and I want to show you, this is the 2 new displays that we have at the Borneo Sambai Conservation Center. And I want to especially thank the curators or the artists who helped us to create these 2 amazing pieces and trying to tell people about the roles that the sambar play in the forest. Wunbing, can you wave at everybody? So Wunbing is. Yeah, Wunbing is an artist based in Kuala Lumpur, and right now he's teaching in a local art college, and then so he is also the person who helped us, create a series of signboards at our sunbears, and it was just like Sarah. He did it for his master project. So it's a win-win-win situation for everybody. And then these 2 pieces about forest engineers is I think it's a masterpiece because it's interactions. People can go and roll and see what kind of animals would benefit from the activities that the sun bears after digging on the tree cavities for the honey, and then the cavity are being used by, say, hornbill, flying squirrels, and owl nests, and so on. And then yes,
with that the pink table in the middle of the sun bear, how does that work?
Okay, so the pink table is actually trying to show sun bear as a forest planter. And then the pink table, if you look on top of it, is a series of fruits, wild fruits in the forest with their names, with their local name and scientific names, and the picture of the fruits. And it shows that even animals, or if the bears, after the bears eating the fruits, and the fruit will go into the stomach, past the digestive tracts, and then few hours later come in their poo, and that process is called seed dispersal. So that makes people, more easy to understand on the roles of the sambar play in the forest. They they plant trees in the forest by eating the fruits, ingest the seeds, and the seed come out in their pool.
It's
Yeah,
beautiful.
so
Well done,
it's
Woodbeck,
absolutely beautiful.
isn't it?
And yeah, absolutely. And then do you have another set of pictures that
I do.
would be? Yeah, all right.
Big
Okay, so
other
yeah,
things
big
to talk
day. Yeah, so last week on the 3rd and the 4th, we did pre-international Sun Bear Days and Earth Day celebrations in Lokawi Zoo. So for those of you who do not know, since 2015, we have been celebrating the International Sun Bear Day on May 16. May 16 on May 16, 2015 is the day where we release our very first rehabilitated bears called Nathalie back into the wild, and then we want to commemorate that day as a very special day. Is the days that give hope for sun bear conservation and sun bear rehabilitations, the work that we do over here. And then since then, we have been using this. We are the one who promote the celebrations, let ask people to celebrate sun bear days on May 16. And in Malaysia, that May 16 also is a Teachers' Day. And then also is my birthday as well. So we celebrate 3 events on one day. So which is on is coming up on another 6 more days. So I will be doing a live virtual tour on that day, and then being live on our Facebook, on BSBC Facebook, or my Facebook. So stay tuned and check that out.
So
And
even
then
in Borneo, Wong, how can we actually be part of it? Is it through your Facebook, or is there any other way to be part of International Sun Bear Day?
yeah, so through Facebook, well, just you can view our the story. I do a virtual tour, and then we will showcase our events with the students all day long and things like that, and then take part. Not sure how you can take part, and other than comment and ask questions, and try to be interactive, and I try to answer the questions from the audience as much as I can. And then and then there's a series of, like, say for example, the Sun Bear art painting competitions
Yeah.
that we ask the world to participate, and then check out the poster and how you can do it, and then
So
so things like that. Yeah,
will be part of the Sun Bear art painting contest?
the what?
Can international people be part of this contest?
Yes. Yeah, so you just send the pictures, and then read through the procedures, and
Okay.
then and you send us a picture of your painting. Yeah, and then here at our center, we already have about close to 100 participants from Noichi Zoo from Japan. And
Oh,
then
wow.
they did a painting contest as well. Some of them are very, very pretty, and then we are going to announce the winners during the International Sun Bear Day. Yeah.
Oh, that's exciting.
And then last weekend, we also have our pre-International Sun Bear Day celebration at our center, where we have the local schools and the local college to help us to do a series of face painting and all kind of activities happening. So it kind of build up the momentums to May 16. Hopefully, it will be another days where we can spread the words about sun bears across the world. Yeah.
Well
Yeah.
done.
Mhm.
It's you're ramping up to this really big event which happens every year, and we're pleased that you could still come even though you've got a lot on, Wong. But I know there's other things happening at the center too, because you still have to look after all the rescued bears. You still have to look after the satellite center at Tarbin. So I know we've got a lot of new faces here. Do you want to give us a little bit of a rundown on what you do on a daily basis, perhaps?
Oh, okay. My day is actually quite busy, and then I did travel a lot. Like just this week, I went to Taiwan on Sunday, and then I give talks on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. 3 continuous days speaking at 2 university and 1 public talk, organized by the national parks and also the local NGO called Wildlife Wong. And right now, because in Taiwan there has been issues, human bear conflict issue, where the Formosan black bears has been killed, has been injured. So it's a big topic about human bear conflict. And then so we try to share my personal experiences with the Taiwanese audience, and then and see what what can they do about this issue. And of course, see other people's work on other bear species would have two ways learning for bear management. So right now, it's beside the bear conservations, bear management is also something that the authorities and the local public need to aware and knows about it. Yeah.
Well, because I mean, some bears look so cute, don't they? And people generally don't realize outside of Borneo how potentially dangerous.
Yeah. And I think, because things are changing right now. Because compared to in the past, forest is vast, human population is low, wildlife population is high. And then right now it's the other way around. The remaining wildlife have very little space to thrive, to survive, and then it's just a matter of time. They have no choice but to encroach on humans' agricultural land, for example, humans' private land, for example, and then it creates conflict. And then sometimes casualties happen, sometimes people's properties happen, and then most of the times animals' life being lost. And then so how to come out with a good solution? There's no silver bullets. Every situations are unique, so we need to examine or learn and use our past experience to come up with the best solution as much as possible. And of course, scientific based decision making is extremely important, so that we don't make mistakes over and over again. Yeah.
I think that applies everywhere, doesn't it? We need to base all our decisions on good science.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do we have questions for Wong about the bears and Borneo?
Hi, Dr. Wong.
Hi.
Are we still getting satellite info from Itown?
Yes, the last time we got is on the 22nd of April. So since then we have not have anything. So we are still waiting. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so just to fill everybody in who's not,
So finger crossed. Yeah.
Itam was a rescued bear that was released. What day were you release Itam?
10th of March. Yeah. So it was 2 months ago, exactly 2 months ago.
Months ago, but the satellite collar has stopped giving you
well, the last, because the caller did not send us the signal every day. I mean, it's accumulate and then send a bunch of call signal and so on. Yeah.
Yeah. So the last time was when?
22nd of April. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, fingers crossed it'll send. For those who don't know, that it's kind of difficult for satellite collars to actually send data because the rainforest is so dense.
Yeah, the terrain and things like that. There's all kind of possibilities. Yeah.
Really interesting. That was a good question there, Wenbing. Well done. Any others?
Yeah, and thanks again, Wenbing. So over the last month or so, Wenbing and I also worked really hard on designing, new signboards that to be set up here. So Wenbing's put a lot of hard work on creating all these wonderful, amazing signboards. Yeah.
We've got some new ones coming then.
Yeah.
Oh, fabulous.
Yeah. Okay, no question. Good. I may need to leave slightly early if you see me disappearing, meaning that I got something, today is very busy day for me. So I apologize if I cannot stay on until the end. Yeah.
That's okay. Thank you for being here for at least part of it. Well, really appreciate it. So I'm coming to you today, as you can see, I'm coming to you from the Glasshouse Mountains. Glasshouse Mountains are volcanic plugs that are in the area of southeast Queensland where I live, and I've just been hiking in these mountains this morning. So I thought I'd come to you from these mountains today, partly because I was there this morning and partly because this is also koala habitat. And today we're going to be talking a little bit about koalas. Now, as Wong alluded to, there are issues with human and bear conflicts in Malaysia, but we don't have those because we don't have bears. Some of you outside of Australia might have heard koalas being called bears. They are not bears. And if you've ever been to Australia and someone told you there was a thing called a drop bear, it's not real. And it does, yeah, I'm busting that myth. It is not real. It will not drop on you. And we don't have bear conflicts in Australia. So that's a really good start, I think. But we do have severe habitat loss. Okay, and we do have issues with koalas, the ones that are not bears. So I'm going to pass over now. I'm going to pass over to our guest speakers for this month, Linda Barnes and David Mackenzie, who run an organization called Koala Crusaders, Queensland Koala Crusaders, which is an amazing little NGO in the local area here. They joined this organization in 2021 and became the leaders of it soon after. So there are 3 pillars in this organization: habitat restoration and expansion, advocacy, and caring for carers, or caring for people that actually look after the injured animals in our area. Okay, we're going to hear a lot from them, but before we pass over, I want to say that I've been honored to be part of this organization for this year and to actually help in some of their projects, namely in improving membership drives and things like that. So I'm going to pass over to Linda and David as soon as I can figure out how to do that. Where we go, and welcome them to World of Wildlife. Give them a bit of a round of applause.
Thank you, Sarah. Appreciate it so much. Lovely to meet you, Wong. And I hope we get to see a whole lot more of you. And Sarah, I'm really, really grateful to you for inviting us to be part of this workshop today.
Yeah, thank you for being here.
Yeah, it's our pleasure. Okay. Queensland Koala Crusaders, as Sarah just mentioned, is an organization based in Queensland, and we cover all of Queensland. And we work very diligently since we've joined in 2021 to be a voice for the koala. The organization was formed in 2012 by a group of very passionate people who saw a need for advocacy and attention to the plight of the koala. And the organization has grown by leaps and bounds since then. We are active all throughout Queensland. We work in the southeastern Queensland primarily. We are based in Brisbane, but the organization was formed on the Sunshine Coast, and now we're proud to call members people all throughout Queensland. So we're very excited about that. Our vision is to see koalas surviving and thriving in abundance in a safe and secure wild environment. And as we know, if you're aware of the situation with koalas, they are facing some significant challenges, and we'll talk about those in just a moment. The organization has 3 pillars of strategic focus. They include advocacy and engagement, and that includes engaging with communities and other stakeholders, government and business, and research professionals to discover what is really causing some of the issues facing koalas. And as we know, there's a lot about the koala that we don't fully understand yet. And we still are working towards answering some of those questions. So we're keen to be involved in research projects. We work with habitat restoration and enhancement. As Sarah mentioned, habitat is being destroyed in all of Australia at an alarming rate. And koala habitat in particular is forcing these animals, which tend to be solitary animals, into smaller and smaller communities. And in their quest for food and safety, they are being crowded into island populations, which is causing significant problems for those animals. We work to expand the habitat, protect what we can, plant new habitat, and we're working on creating sanctuaries all throughout Queensland, and David will be talking about that in just a moment. Our 3rd pillar of focus is to care for carers. And when koalas are injured and when they are coming out of rehabilitation from wildlife hospitals or if those animals have been orphaned because of a car strike or a dog attack, carers are individuals who take these animals into their homes and care for them on their own nickel, on their own time. They receive no government support, and they care for these sick and injured animals, often getting up every 2 hours around the clock to feed orphan joeys by bottle, and taking care of them until they can be released back into the wild. So we do what we can to help those people, not only with financial support, but emotional and mental support as well. Those people have a very difficult job to do, and it's our pleasure to be able to support them the best that we can. Some fun facts about koalas. They are not bears, as Sarah mentioned, but they are one of the many marsupial species that are unique to Australia. They have unique fingerprints, just like we humans do. They breed once a year, and the joey weighs only a half a gram when it's born. After it's born, it crawls into the mother's pouch, where it stays there until it's about 6 or 7 months old, when it emerges for the first time, and then spends the remaining time riding on mom's back to get around, and until mom becomes pregnant again. And when mom becomes pregnant again, she pretty much kicks the older offspring off onto its own, and that's called dispersal. They sleep up to 20 hours a day, and they eat leaves that are toxic and of poor nutritional value. And because of the lack of nutrition in their diet, they have to sleep 20 hours a day to conserve energy. Some other interesting facts about koalas are that, and I found this to be very interesting, the koala alone is responsible for between $3 billion and $5 billion per year of tourism revenue. So it's very, very important that we maintain the population and help them survive and thrive in the wild, because if the koala were to go extinct, that would be a significant financial impact to the country. And it would disappoint people all around the world, because we know from some of the interactions that we have in our organization that koalas are beloved around the world. So we want to do whatever we possibly can to conserve them and to help them survive and thrive. The koala numbers are decreasing. Distribution of these animals has decreased by 50% since European arrival, and that's largely due to destruction of habitat. Their estimated numbers are down 30% since 2018, and they were uplisted from vulnerable status, where they had been for at least 10 years, to endangered status in 3 states in 2022. And a large number of koalas were destroyed in the bushfires of 2019 and 2020. And that brought a lot of attention worldwide to the plight of the koala. So we're happy to keep working to help them survive and thrive in the wild, and we're looking for help wherever we can find it around the world. In fact, we have a year ago, 2 years ago, a company from Geneva contacted us. They make collector's item watches, and they asked if they could create a watch to honor the koala. And we said yes, and they said that we would become the beneficiaries of this watch, of the proceeds of this watch, and we were indeed. But what was interesting to me is that only 9 watches were produced, and only 1 of them was sold in Australia. The remaining 8 watches were sold in 8 other countries around the world, which tells me that people around the world are very, very interested in koalas, and we want to work as much as we can to keep them going. Their challenges to survival include habitat fragmentation and destruction, forcing individuals into island populations, as I mentioned a moment ago. And these island populations are often surrounded by human development, which, as they disperse, they're forced to crossing roads, crossing into neighborhoods, crossing into dangerous areas, which can result in an increased incidence of car strikes and dog attacks. In addition to that, the crowding tends to make these animals a little bit more susceptible to diseases such as chlamydia. And chlamydia is rampant among the koala population, and it results in death or infertility of the koalas. So there are groups out there who make it their business to rescue these animals and take them into wildlife hospitals for treatment and then re-release them again. However, it's not too late. And I would like to hand it off to my partner, David, who's going to talk to you about our next initiative, which is Vision 2032.
Thanks, Linda. Vision 2032 came about because we realised that so much of what we are doing is short-term, and it's dictated by the next grant round or the next financial year or the next year or the next period, whatever it might be. And we made the realisation that we had to think bigger, we had to look up and look more long-term. So we chose at the time of this was put together, 2032 being 7 years from when we first conceived the idea. And it coincides with the Olympics that are coming to southeast Queensland, where the eyes of the world will well and truly be on Queensland and Australia. And we are very adamant in our belief that those visitors from all over the world need to be able to see koalas in the wild. And we want to have as much habitat available for people to visit so that they can see wild koalas behaving as they would naturally in the wild, not in zoos. Zoos and things do a fantastic job educating people, and some of the wildlife hospitals that are attached to zoos are just amazing, the work that they do. But we love the idea of koalas in the wild. That's what they're born to do. That's where they're born to be. So we started formulating a plan of how we could look at a bigger picture than just the next little individual piece of habitat. And we came up with the idea that the first thing that we needed was to increase our understanding of habitats right across an area from North Queensland to the New South Wales border. And our ultimate vision is to create the Great Koala Highway, which is basically an uninterrupted piece of connected habitat so that koalas can move freely from one end to the other. Now, obviously, in practical terms, an individual koala is not going to do that, but koalas as a population need to be able to have that freedom of movement across a large area. So that's the premise that drove us to come up with this plan. So in order to do that, we realised that we need to understand more about habitat in general, and that understanding is on two levels. What's in it in terms of trees, tree species and distribution and density, and what's in it in terms of koalas. How many koalas are in each piece of habitat? What's their status? Are they sick? Are they well? Are they in abundance in a particular habitat? We know some individual pieces of habitat where we've got a koala density of a koala per hectare, which is amazing. But there are other large pieces of habitat that have got very few. So we need to drive understanding of where all of these koalas are. We think we know where a lot of koalas are, particularly the ones in urban environments. If you happen to look at a sighting map, a lot of the sightings happen to coincide with where people live and where people travel. So you can see roads marked on the sighting maps because that's where people are travelling and they'll see koalas. We know there are vast areas out there that are not visited by people, and a lot of it is private land, where there are no sightings. Does that mean there are no koalas in there? Probably not. So that's one of the key things that we need to do, is to get out into some of these more remote areas and understand what's going on in terms of koala distribution. It's a really exciting first step, because even in the short time that we've been doing this, we're finding little pockets of koala populations that we didn't know about. And I suspect the reason we didn't know about them is because no one's ever looked there in the past. I come from an agricultural background, and I had a cattle property in the area to the northwest of Brisbane, about 2 hours out of Brisbane, and there are koalas on that property. But that property, I sold it a few years ago now, but that property is not listed as having any sightings because A, we didn't have any mobile phone reception to log sightings, but in that time nobody knew that you could log koala sightings. So we know there's an information gap in those sort of places. So that's part of what we want to do. So the beginnings of creating this great koala highway comes in understanding, and that's where we want to engage researchers of all different levels to help us get in there and really do some research and do some evaluation of the current status. We know a lot about what koalas are up to, but it's not enough. We still need to know more. So the more people we can bring in, the more inquiring minds that we can bring in, the better, because we want to ask questions of everything that we know already, and we want to challenge a lot of the accepted thinking. And some work that was done 15, 20 years ago, is that work still valid? Or can we challenge that and come up with some different answers? A lot of it probably is valid, and that's fantastic, but we still want to be able to ask the questions. So we're going to be seeking some large amounts of money to help these researchers get in there and ask some of these critical questions, because it's by asking these questions that we can start to formulate the next part of our plan, which is engaging with people and the community at large, with stakeholders, including government, including developers, including business, and in particular private landowners, because a lot of this potential habitat and potential habitat expansion is in the areas from 50 to 150 kilometres west of the built-up urban areas in southeast Queensland. Some of you who are not from here may know that Queensland is heavily populated along the coast. Everyone wants to live on the beach or near the beach. And that also happens to be fantastic koala habitat. So we have this collision of interests between humanity and human need to develop and live, and koalas who want to live in their natural state. If we go a little bit further west of that habitat area, or the area of urban development, we come into this area that's under far less pressure from development and human interaction. And we don't know enough about that area to know what the status is of koalas. But if we can engage with people out there and help them become part of this movement, then they can help us create more habitat, and we can look at areas through private land where we might be able to bridge the gap between individual pieces of habitat. Part of that, and it comes back to learning, we need to know more about biodiversity values, because one of the really key opportunities that we've got, as I see it, is that we can go to these traditional farmers and talk to them about increasing biodiversity on their land. The traditional thinking for generations has been that you get rid of as much vegetation that's not grass as possible, because more grass means more cattle and more productivity. But we're learning that that's not necessarily the case, and there are opportunities for people to increase biodiversity by planting trees and shrubs and other things that can help actually make their land potentially more productive. So adding more trees does not compromise necessarily the productivity of that land. So that's another huge opportunity that we've got to learn more about biodiversity values. And we can sell the idea of increasing biodiversity to traditional landowners, traditional agriculturalists, and that helps them by making their place more attractive and more productive potentially. And it helps us because the biodiversity that we help them create also happens to help koalas by creating more corridors. We're learning more about what constitutes a corridor, how many trees we need to make a corridor, and that's part of the learning phase as well. And the third part of it then is to get out there and sell the message to all of these stakeholders and start getting trees in the ground, to plant more trees. And we're talking a large scale planting right across the area of the Great Koala Highway. And it's not going to be just, we don't see it as being just us planting trees. We want to bring as many groups and as many organisations and as many communities as possible into this, to commit to this, to start getting trees in the ground and to start really expanding the available habitat for koalas. And if we can do that in the next 7 years, we'll go a long way to achieving our objectives of having sustainable, abundant populations of koalas right through eastern Queensland again. And we can reverse this sad trend of a population decline. And as I said, we see the main target of this as being private landowners, and I see a huge opportunity to talk to these people and to get them to come into this program. So it's an exciting time where we're very early in developing it. We've got a lot of people to talk to. We've had some really interesting engagements with all sorts of people, including from within the Olympic organisation, and where we are having and will be having conversations with people in and around the Olympics. One of our friends and colleagues, Dr. Ramon Cristettiu, came up with the idea of having the Olympics, the 2032 Olympics, as being the Olympics that saved koalas. And we are very keen to help her achieve that as well. And that was one of the things that really got us thinking about what we can do in 2032 to really start to make a difference for these animals. So I see it as an incredibly exciting time. I don't accept that koalas are doomed. I refuse to accept that koalas are doomed. I think there's a great opportunity to really help them and to turn this ship around.
It absolutely is. What an awesome idea. The Vision 2032, it's well aligned with the Olympic sort of goal and this opportunity for getting the word out. So yeah, I'm sure we all wish you well. And one of the things that you mentioned there that I would love you to expand on, if you don't mind, is the concept of people not knowing that they've got koalas on their property. Rhonda said that she was on a property recently, and she just put a comment down that that they noticed a koala, but the landowner didn't even know they had koalas on their property. And it's one of the detrimental things that you have we have in knowing where koalas are or what they are, because they're usually little bumps in the tree in the middle of nowhere and they don't move, right? So what sort of technology has been used to actually determine if koalas are on a property?
That's a fantastic question, and it excites me a lot, because being a photographer, there's imaging really gets me going. And we've applied for a couple of grants. There's a number of ways that you can look for koalas, and I'll try and make this brief. We can walk around and look up in trees and find maybe 10% of the koalas if we're lucky. If we're really good, we might find 15 or 20% of the koalas. We are investigating some technology, including acoustic monitoring at ground-based thermal image binoculars that can increase our detection rate significantly. And if we can utilise that technology, we can do it pretty quickly and pretty inexpensively to get an idea of the presence of koalas. The third and fourth ways involve thermal imaging drones, which can go out and detect the heat signal from a koala, and they are incredibly efficient at finding koalas and do a really good job. And the thermal images that the good quality drones can get are almost as good as a photograph in terms of identifying a koala. They're really fantastic. And then the detection dogs are also brilliant, because the detection dogs can go into that environment, find scat, and from the collection of scat, we can learn all sorts of things about the status of those koalas, their disease, their genetic makeup, what they're eating. And this is a whole raft of stuff that I didn't talk about in the interest of time. But there's a whole bunch of things within that's exciting as well.
Yeah, it is incredible, isn't it? Because there's these non-technical solutions too, like the detection dogs for conservation. And
Yeah.
Ramon talked to this group before about how that works. And then you've got people, you know, like I've actually been taught personally by Milani how to find scats, which is another non-technical way of actually finding koalas, which is very cool. Milani, feel free to chip in if you want to.
I think there's just one other thing, or a couple of other things that you touched on in that question about people with private land. We agree with Rhonda. In fact, we've been on a property down in her neck of the woods where a fellow called us in and not sure whether there's koalas there or not. Part of the issue with traditional landowners in that area is that they've never looked. You know, so they might be there, but they're riding their horse or around looking at their cows. They're not looking up. But the other thing, and this is an interesting thing that we have to overcome, is a reluctance from traditional landowners to acknowledge that they have koalas in there because the government might come in and tell them what they have to do, and they're fearful of government interference with their lives. So I don't have an answer really for that objection, but it's something that we need to work on. We've got a very good friend who has property near Toowoomba, and she was telling us about how she saw a koala just outside the garden gate on this property, and we got really excited and said, "Oh, great! We'd love to come and photograph it, have you logged it." And straight away the barriers came up. No, we don't want to do that. We don't want anybody knowing that we've got koalas on our property. And this lady's a really good friend of ours, and we couldn't get past that. So we got more work to do in that area to find ways to bridge that trust gap. And I think this mistrust, I'm not, as I say, we haven't come up with an answer yet, but it's something that's, I think, really important for our ability to sell this messaging.
Yeah, really important, isn't it? Because you're talking about this mistrust that we have, that farmers are concerned that they might lose the ability to do certain things on their land if there's endangered species on it, which is, you know, from their perspective, I guess, is a fair call. And because we're hoping we can find koalas and then restrict them from doing things on their land, right? So
but if we sell it right, they'll agree that what we want to do is a good thing. So that turns it around into an opportunity for us, you know, and the better the salespeople we become, the more effective we can be with that messaging.
Yeah, very true. Linda, that was wonderful. I really, really enjoyed that very much, and I'm sure that everyone else did. Before we move on with questions, Kat and Milani, is there anything you would like to add to that discussion?
I don't think she's quite sure if she wants to add anything. I think, like, whilst what Milani is doing with teaching people how to spot koalas in the wild and look for the signs of the presence, it's a really tiny component. Like David said, that the human eye doesn't spot a lot of koalas in comparison to some of the technology that's out there and available. But you know, it's still an important piece, and Milani's still hacking away at it and teaching as many people as she can, so we can be more aware of you know, the species that are out there and how many, and connect with them and care about them, because I think when we see them in their natural state, that the connection's so different to seeing them in a zoo where they're just sleeping. And
Oh, and the connection of peer-to-peer is so important with what you guys are doing too, isn't it? Because what Milani's doing in engaging kids in this sort of space is making sure that not all conservationists are old and grey. That's what we need.
It's crucial. I think it's crucial that people like Milani are becoming interested in koalas and conservation, and that kind of leans into when you start caring about an individual species, you start caring about all of the species around it. And Milani, what you do with kids, I've seen you in action. I've seen you connect with kids, and the passion that you have for koalas becomes transmitted to these kids that you are interacting with. And before you know it, we're going to have a whole raft of people that are Milani's age that are they're going to help us in this quest to save the koala and to save the world.
Yeah, you're doing a great job.
thanks.
Well done. Who's got some questions about koalas or comments?
I see Rhonda had a comment about,
Rhonda, do you want to chat through your comment, or would you like me to read it out for you?
Okay, and I've got another comment after that. Sure.
Go for it. What would you like to say?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, well, I might as well mention the one I've just said. Yeah. Some people in the scenic rim have said, you know, we don't want koalas on their property. We don't want anyone to know about it if we do, because the government might want to take our land or restrict us, etc. Well, I've just said here that I have been telling that you can still raise cows and have koalas on your property, but isolated trees are sometimes really isolated trees are sometimes a problem. Michael Payne from Currumbin Wildlife Hospital has told us that cows often attack koalas. They have several koalas a year come in injured by cows. Whether the cows are just curious and toss the koala about, I'm not sure. But yeah, so I said, look, as long as you've got some trees that a koala can run to for protection if they're chased by cows, yeah, you can grow cows on the rest of the property, and the trees are good shade for them anyway. Yeah, the other thing is with the Olympics, I'm chair of the Scenic Rim branch of Wildlife Preservation Society of Queensland, and from July onwards, we're going to be running some half-hour seminars once a month on the wildlife of southeast Queensland. Oh, and doing this in conjunction with Wildlife Tourism Australia. And so, yeah, I'd like to have a bit of a chat with folk that would yeah, like to participate there, because we might get you two to say something about the koalas and
Sounds like a good
in one of
opportunity, I
those
reckon.
seminars, because yeah, we want to, yeah, and we're promoting this, sort of emphasising the Olympic Games to promote it to tour operators and other businesses throughout southeast Queensland who are most likely to come in contact with visitors coming for the games, but doing a bit of exploration, because it'll help their businesses, their reputation and so on. But of course, our ultimate aim is to get everyone thinking about our wildlife, realising how much wonderful wildlife we have, and appreciating it and understanding some of its problems. So
wonderful.
happy to
that's a good connection. Well done.
Yeah, we'd love to chat more about that in another forum. That sounds great.
That would be great. In fact, Rhonda, we met with the Minister for Tourism in Queensland, and one of the things that they're keen to do is learn ways in which we can attract more visitors to Queensland over and around the Olympics, even before the Olympics and therefore after. And we had a little chat with him about the importance of making sure that the koala is around to attract visitors, because as I said earlier, there are eight other countries around the world made it their business to acquire one of these watches. And if that's the case, that tells me that koalas are beloved around the world, and it would be a real shame to lose that. It's one of the things that Australia.
And when the Cooperative Research Centre for Sustainable Tourism did a lot of research, kangaroo was the animal most associated with Australia from people overseas, but koala was definitely the second. And so many people, I want to see a koala. I want to see them in the wild. I can see them in the zoo back home, but I want to see them in the wild. Yeah.
Let's hope the koala becomes a mascot of the 32 Olympics. That would be a real big push for conservation of this species, wouldn't it? Too.
Yeah. Great. Yeah.
I have another question for you while others are thinking of theirs. Now, I've noticed in some koala habitats that it's still okay to take dogs walking in koala habitat. Now, I know that Roman and the conservation dogs do a very positive thing for wildlife, and especially koalas, but there's a lot of dogs that don't. For instance, walking in Mount Cootha, where there's koalas in the wild, and not all Australians are very good on keeping their dogs on leads. Yeah, we're not very good at that. So what can we do about that? Do we need to have more restrictions in place in koala habitat?
I think that would be a good thing to do, but I want to put in a plug for a program that was crafted by the Griffith University group, and it's called the Leave It program. And it's a free app and a free program that teaches dog owners how to teach their dogs to leave wildlife alone. And I know a lot of people will say, oh, my dog would never bother wildlife, but we know that dogs left to their own devices will act on instinct. And there are training programs out there like the Leave It program that are really effective in helping your dog understand that some things are not okay to chase. But yeah, I agree that working with councils to enforce leash laws and prohibit people from taking dogs into wildlife habitats is a good thing to try to do. It's difficult. I mean, we acknowledge that because people don't like to be told what to do, but we do our best to educate folks on our website, and when we run into them in the wildlife areas, to encourage them to put their dogs on leads.
Yeah, that's a really good thing, and we can all be part of that, can't we? We can all
Yeah.
have our voices heard if we see people doing the wrong thing. Are there any other things that we can do to help you?
Well, I think just adding to that a little bit is part of it is that people go into bushland not knowing it's koala habitat. And so, you know, it may not be necessarily recognised as koala habitat, or they don't associate it with being part of koala habitat. So that messaging, I think we need to try and keep reinforcing the messaging that koalas are out there. It's not too late. There are still koalas out there. And if you take your dog into bushland, it may encounter wildlife, including koalas, that it could potentially harm. So, you know, I think we have an opportunity to really reinforce that messaging. There's been an idea around keeping koala locations secret, and I don't adhere to that thought, because if we need to engage the hearts and minds of mainstream Australia. And to do that, they need to know that there's koalas there and where the koalas are, so that they can interact with them. So the more we can create awareness about the fact that koalas are still in different locations, the more people will engage and are more likely, therefore, to act more responsibly when they go into that bushland than just going in there because they didn't realise it was koala habitat.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I think education is an important element, isn't it?
Yeah. One thing I want to suggest too is, as we're out walking around in bushland, if you happen to see a koala, there's a fantastic app called the Q Wildlife app. And it's so easy to use, even I can do it. You open it up and it knows where you are. You can log the koala sighting. And if you can log that koala sighting in the app, that information goes directly to the Department of Environment and Science, Tourism and Innovation. And those are the folks who are making the determinations about what constitutes protected koala habitat. So the more information we can provide to the state to protect koalas by letting the state know that, yes, indeed, they are there, the more helpful that'll be. The other thing that we can do is learn how to spot a koala in trouble. If you see a koala, if you're driving and you see a koala on the road, please slow down. Please allow that animal some room to cross the road, because they're just trying to get from one place to another. And if you do see a koala that's been hit on the road, please stop and ring up a rescue organization and stay with the animal if you can until that rescue person gets there, because the quicker that we can get that animal into care, the more likely it is to survive. In addition to that, if you're out walking in the bush and you see a koala that looks sick, and the way to determine that it's possibly sick is to look for a wet and dirty stained bottom. That is an indicator of possible chlamydial disease, or if they have red gunky eyes and they look sick, or if they look emaciated, or they're just not moving, if they're on the ground and just not moving, please ring up one of the koala rescue groups as soon as you can. And again, report that koala to those folks so that that animal can get taken in for rescue. David Isett, who's on the call today, is a rescuer in Queensland, And he's one of many, 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 many people who are out there doing this difficult work. And it'll help so much if we can isolate those animals and bring them into care.
Absolutely, a good point. Well
Can
done.
I
for the work
please
Thanks,
of-
ask another
Linda.
question?
Keep up the good work yourself.
Thank you.
Well done, David. Can I don't want to bring down this beautiful conversation, but I do want to ask for your advice on what happens if you find a dead koala. What's the next thing you do if you find a dead koala?
Same thing. Call one of the rescue organisations and they'll come and collect it and deal with it appropriately. Sometimes they go for some analysis of why and what happens. Other times it's just disposed of appropriately, but the rescue people really usually know what to do, and David might be able to answer that.
One thing that's very helpful is if that koala is dead, to call the rescue group, because very often they'll extract pap from that animal, and that pap can be used when people are caring for orphan joeys as well.
Awesome. And I guess if it's got a joey in its pouch too, then it might still have a live joey as well. Yeah,
Absolutely.
Just to add to all of those good points, a dead carcass, dead koala still needs to be logged and sent through to the government for records. So it's critical that they're reported and not just dragged off into the bush and hidden.
Okay, yeah, that's really important. Thanks for adding to that. It's a very good point, David. Well done. Do we have any specific questions? Oh, Rhonda, you've got something to add?
Yeah, I have actually, and fairly urgent. I was called in for a court case as an expert witness on ecology, wildlife ecology, a land that's being cleared for residential in the Gold Coast. They're only clearing 20% of it now. They're leaving 80% of it, which is great. They're putting fences between the houses on the bushland to protect koalas from dogs and cars, which is great. But there is one end of the property where there's other bushland across the road, which I'm sure koalas would be moving between. I've asked for a koala crossing. A substantial one would be best, but I said, even if it's just one of those rope ladders, and they've come back to me saying, oh, but we've done all these other things. Why on earth should you need that? And I've just responded through the lawyer that's representing the conservation group to then tell their lawyer and them about it. But yeah, I'm wondering, do the koalas often use those rope ladders if they won't come at putting a more substantial one? How much evidence of using those rope ladders going across the road? And I've also told them what I know of how many koalas are being hit by cars. They just don't seem to understand. I don't think they've had anything to do with wildlife, including koalas. And why on earth does a koala need a ladder to cross a road? And I've been trying to get through to them, but do you have any comments, anything further I can tell them, any actual statistics? I know the national parks were saying about 20 years ago, there was something like 300 koalas a year in Brisbane, either being hit by cars or caught by dogs. That's a lot of koalas a year, almost one koala a day for every.
I think the issue of rope ladders is a really interesting one. I've not seen any definitive measurements of koalas using them. I believe they tend to be mostly put there for possums. And koalas don't tend to use those as much. We were told some years ago of an instance where a koala was captured photographically using one, but that's a one-off. I think in broad terms, I think the traditional rope ladders that we see on the highways and things are not so effective for koalas. There's a really, really good one across Boundary Road in Cannon Hill or whatever the sort of Whites Hill, but that's millions of dollars to create that.
It's a fixed structure. It's not rope.
Timber.
I know the Cochrane Road one is marvellous, but they're certainly not going to do that. So I was wondering about some sort of compromise.
Rhonda, I agree with Dave.
You guys to get together to talk about that.
Yeah.
more, wouldn't
Yeah.
it?
Koalas normally do underpasses rather than overpasses. I'm not aware of any koalas using the ropes in my time anyway that I've been involved. So underpasses are great. The ropes are, as David said, for possums in the main and sugar gliders, etc.
All right, we've run out of
Okay.
time, everybody. I'm going to have to wrap up this amazing conversation. It's been such a delight to have you both here. So thank you very much for telling us all about koalas. And let's take our hats off to those people that are actually doing the caring. So thank you, David, and people like David who are caring for injured animals. Hopefully we can do our bit and we can improve. If you'd like to be part of the Queensland Koala Crusaders, please go to their website. I'm going to share an image from their website and how you can actually be part of that. There are a number of different ways of becoming a Koala Crusader member, different ways of doing that. So if you'd like to go straight to the website to do that, please have a look and please support this valuable organization. If you're interested in finding out more about my work, then I suggest you go to my website and have a look at the books that I write and the workshops I do with schools. I would love you to connect me with anyone who can help me reach my goal of connecting young people to conservation through narrative. Okay, and if you'd like to do that, there's a lot of different ways of doing it. So please subscribe, like, connect to YouTube, web, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. We will have a version of this talk in a video version, and it will be available on the YouTube channel. So for those people that didn't make it because it's the middle of the night where you are, you've got a way of actually seeing that. But for those of you who were here, please share this video widely so we can actually do our part to improve the education about koalas and wildlife in general. That would be absolutely wonderful. So thank you so much for everyone who's been here. We'll see you next month. This meeting is held on the 10th of every single month. We will have a break in July because I'll be overseas, but I'll tell you more about that next month. We'll see you on the 10th of June. The time I'll let you know by email. So because you've signed up, I will send you an email with the time of the next one. Okay. Thank you very much for being here.